A young girl prays for underprivileged kids.
Who are really sick and they don't have any tools. Amen.
And a woman's life is changed after seeing the children of Uganda.
They were in the dumps. They had no food. They had very little clothes.
See how these women are changing lives.
It doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are, nothing is impossible.
You may not think you can make a difference, but you can.
On today's 700 Club Interactive. Good morning and welcome to the show. The world faces a lot of problems, including homelessness, poverty, and a lack of clean water. So it's important that we start creating real solutions. But how do you take an idea and make it work?
Well, today you're going to be meeting people who've done just that. They've brought clean water to a village, built an entire village based on hope, and in our first story, baked banana bread to open a children's home in Uganda. Take a look.
They were in the dumps. They had no food. They had very little clothes, one outfit, and it was ripping off them. It's normal over there. But happy, all of them very happy. It was hard. It was hard to see children. Children have always been a passion with me, and I saw what was happening over there. Came home and I just couldn't justify living here. I couldn't justify what I had. We decided to build a home for children, but we didn't have a way. I said, I can make a banana bread. Let's start making banana bread. And we did. The banana bread was the only way I knew how to start. And I started baking, plus I was working 3 jobs. And I would bake 2 in the morning and 2 at night, every day. And then I sent the first load of money over and it bought the bricks, the first load of bricks. We started building the first home. That was probably 5,000 loaves of banana bread, we figured. And then after approximately a year, Global Television found out about it. And they put it on, and then the donors started coming. It was a blessing. But it's not just banana bread. Banana bread was the first thing that started it. It's now people, it's teams of people. Children coming to my door with baggies full of their coin out of their piggy banks, wanting to help. He has always had a love for kids down there, and he goes down and feeds them as best he can. But he had no way, and that's why we joined together to make this home, to take those kids out of that dump. We're taking 32 children, all HIV/AIDS, except one was just tested negative, which was a blessing. I want to teach them about Jesus. I want to show them who he is and that he loves them. There is somebody in the world that really, truly loves them, and not to have fear. And education is going to be huge for these kids. I keep saying we're going to raise the next president of Uganda. The water was a story in itself. When Global Television put us on, a lady came forth and she had a cow. She wanted to donate her prize cow, the sale of it, to put in water for us, because that's the most valuable commodity back there. That cow sold, and we are now pumping 5,000 liters an hour. And we have water enough for all the community around us. I became a Christian approximately 5 years ago. And I work with kids in recovery. And one Native Indian girl asked me to take her to CLA one night. And I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, but I was really nervous. And all I have to say is my life changed that night. And I've never looked back since then. It doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are, nothing is impossible. I'm 66 years old, and I've got another good 20 years of doing this. When I look back to CLA down on that floor and today, I can't believe what's happened. It's God who's made all this journey possible for me.
We want to thank Cassiar Media Works for that inspiring video, and you can see more of what they do at cassiar.me. We love stories like this on 700 Club Interactive,
Yes.
Terry, and one of the reasons is because it seems sometimes so overwhelming to make a difference. But here's a woman who said, I know what I can do. I can make banana bread, which she talked about at least 5,000 loaves, and look at the impact.
You know, that's very biblical. I mean, what did God say to Moses when he asked him to do the impossible? What do you have in your hand? You know, God doesn't ask us to do what we don't know how to do or don't have the capacity to do. And then when he asks us, he even provides what we need. And I love the fact that so often he does it in increments so that we can see that, you know, it kind of stops us in our tracks a little bit, makes us trust him every day for whatever he's got planned. Well, coming up, you're going to meet a young girl who threw an unusual birthday bash to bring clean water to a village. You don't want to miss her inspiring story. That was just the beginning. She's here in our studio with us right after this. Well, I want you to meet a young woman who's dreamed of helping orphans in Africa for as long as she can remember. Take a look.
Ever since she was a little girl, Devin Leondis has been praying for underprivileged kids.
Who are very sick and they don't have any tools. Amen.
Most people laughed when Devin shared her dream to one day build an orphanage in Africa. On her 16th birthday, she asked for donations instead of gifts to build a freshwater well for those in need. Devin took that money and donated it to Operation Blessing for not one, but 3 water wells. Now at 22, she's formed an organization and partnered with Orphans Promise to build a village in Ghana.
Well, joining us now is Devin Leondis. And Devin, thank you so much for being here. It's such a, you're a visual picture of the fact that if we're available, God will say, come on, let's partner together. Hey, you've always known from the time you were very young that God had a call on your heart for orphaned and vulnerable kids. How did you know that?
Yeah, so ever since I was young, I just really felt like God had put this in the deepest parts of my heart, and it was something that I couldn't stray away from, and it was something that I can remember from the time I can look back on my childhood.
Was it that feeling inside of you that caused, it was you and your dad that went on the mission trip, right, the first time? And what was that like for you? What did God do in your heart when you actually went on a missions trip to Ghana and saw the need?
Yeah, so when I had first gone to Ghana, I was going with the mindset that I was going to help these people. But God had completely humbled me and kind of turned my world upside down, and he showed me that these were the people and they were giving me so much more than I could give them. And I was just confronted with so much poverty and devastation, yet I still found so much beauty and hope in the hearts of these amazing people.
Yeah. And one of the things that they had was a water need, very common need in many parts of the world, but that really spoke to you. What made you say, gee, I think I can build a well?
Yeah, so I had always dreamed of going to Africa. I didn't know how old I was going to be or when I would get the opportunity, but on my birthday I thought it was a great chance, and going over there, it was a good opportunity to be a part of something bigger than myself and learn about things that I wasn't really dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Clean water is just, needed everywhere around the world, and just to be able to be a part of that and see how much it impacted these people and their day-to-day lives, and then being confronted with even more of their needs, that it was way beyond water and that there was spiritual and other needs that needed to be met.
A lot of people, I think it's very common within the church in America today for people to go on missions trips. And I think many people go and they have compassion for what they see. They're astonished by the need that they see, and they come home and they move back into life as they knew it. But for you, it was different. God really spoke to your heart. On your 16th birthday, you could have just had all your friends and family give you wonderful gifts, but you said, I want the well. I want the well. So people contributed to that, and you wound up raising money for not one well, but 3. What was it like to go back and experience the untold gratitude of people who, really water is life. It's not just convenience, it's life. That had to have such a powerful impact on you.
Yeah, definitely. It was just a time where I was completely shaken out of my complacency. And I really got to see God work in the lives of these people and work in my heart. And it was definitely something that I wanted to be a part of, and I refused to kind of exist. I wanted to exist with a purpose, and I wanted to live a meaningful life. And I felt like, God had brought me to Ghana for such a time as this. And I was young at the time, but I wanted to come home and live a different life because God had called me to do that.
Well, you surely did do that. You honored your parents by completing your college. But now, over the course of your college years, you've been raising money to really create this village where children who are alone and vulnerable through whatever means, sometimes it's because their parents have died, sometimes it's because they're ill, will have a safe place to stay. And you're calling it Project Nemensa, which means what?
It means God's helping hands.
Yeah, which is what all of the people who've been a part of this, you've got many, many friends who've stood with you in this, committed to be a part of this financially and in prayer. And in July, you and I are going over there and you're going to get to cut that ribbon. Is that a little surrealistic to you?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to it.
It's seeing the pictures. It's like watching a community rise up out of the dirt, you know, of nothing, to see what God can do. One of the things I love about your generation, Devin, is that part of you that says, I want to live a life that matters. And I think there are many people who feel that way. We're going to, of course, continue to follow the progress of Project Nemensa. But what would you say to young people who are watching right now, not just young people, to anybody who thinks, you know, I'm one little person and God has laid this on my heart, but what can I do?
Definitely. So one thing I would say to anyone is whether you're old or young, age should not be a matter that determines when or where or how you do something. And that's a lie. And you should definitely not let that stop you. And I would say to follow your heart, because God gives you the desires of your heart. And you don't need to go to Africa to make a difference. You can help out in your local community, in your church, in your backyard. And I would just start by taking small steps and asking God, you know, reveal yourself to me and show me what you have for my life and let me live a life with purpose and meaning.
Do the first thing first. Right? So what do you want to see happen in the Village of Hope that's been built in Ghana? Because it's going to be a place of hope and such restoration for people. What's your vision for it? What has God spoken to your heart?
Yeah, so my vision for the Village of Hope is to just be so excited to raise up a future generation of leaders. And, you know, God has placed a calling on all of these kids' lives, and He's been so a part of their story and their journey. And I'm so expecting and looking forward to what the future has in store for them. But for the village, I do believe that this will be the first of many. And I'm just kind of following God, whether there'll be more in Ghana or in other countries. I'm just kind of letting Him take the lead on this.
Well, isn't it interesting? I don't know if you thought this, but the story we just saw before yours of Barb, who is baking banana bread for Uganda and talking about investing in children, maybe raising the next president of Uganda. You may be raising up the next president of Ghana. I mean, wouldn't that be something? To see that
amazing.
Spread across Africa. Yes, godly children, godly young men and women who will lead their people with integrity and with purpose. Thank you for what you're doing. Looking forward to July. And want to say to all of you, if you'd like more information on Project Nemensa, go to projectnemensa.org and you will be able to follow Devin, follow the progress. We'll be cutting that ribbon in July. We're very excited about that. Lots of people who've been a part of it going over there with us. And you can go too. Just come online, follow us. We'll be sending some updates afterwards as well. So Devin, thank you. Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you, Terry. Well, still to come, see exactly how CBN's Orphans Promise is saving children and breaking the cycle of generational poverty. Plus, meet a family who has their own United Nations right in their living room. That's all next after this. Stay with us. CBN's Orphans Promise reaches out to at-risk families and shows them that with God, anything is possible, even the so-called impossible. Take a look.
When Noligua's husband abandoned her, she was suddenly left with no income and had 2 children depending on her. Hunan is a field laborer who cannot find work because local farms have suffered 2 years of bad crops. He's incurring more and more debt just to feed his family of 14. Grandmother Alyona works from sunrise to sunset, shelling nuts to earn $5 for her labor. With this, she buys food for her 5 grandchildren who are depending solely on her. Every person wants to be able to provide for themselves and their family. But sometimes life serves up some pretty difficult situations. At Orphans Promise, when we see children suffering, we want to step in with the best solution, not just to solve the immediate problem, but give long-term answers. Hunan is quite the family man. He told us, "The greatest thing in my life is my children." So imagine Hunan's despair when his debt at the local grocery store continued to grow, while his two-room house was falling apart. We met this large family because the school-aged children attend our Orphans Promise Training Center at the local church in Merkishat, Armenia. They're learning English and computer skills that will enable them to get good jobs when they're older. Plus, they're flourishing in God-centered youth activities. Imagine everyone's surprise when the mayor heard of their plight and offered them a larger house. It was abandoned with broken windows, no kitchen, crumbling concrete stairs. But the church members, together with Orphans Promise, worked to bring the house to a livable condition. In their old house, the children had been crowded into one bedroom, but we made sure that now each child had a separate bed. They were pretty excited about that. Then we had another surprise, a cow, which would provide milk for these growing children, plus a little milk to sell for income. And we had a plan to get this family back on their feet.
So we want to pay your debt for you so you can start fresh.
Probably the best thing about this property was the large plot of land that came with it. We provided gardening tools and water irrigation. Now, instead of laboring for others, Hunan could work his own land, providing food for his family and food to sell. Alyona is a hard-working, resourceful woman who has raised 7 children and now has 24 grandchildren. You need only look at the pages of her Bible to see that she spends a lot of time with God. She's one of the few adults in her gypsy community in Western Ukraine who can read and write. So when one of her daughters left 5 young children for Alyona to raise, she did what she knew to do: work hard and trust God. Not long after, our Orphans Promise team came to her village. We saw children everywhere who were not allowed to attend public school, so we set up classes for them. Grandmother Alyona made sure her school-aged children attended. We also saw large, unused, fertile land and lots of hungry people. This village became one of Orphans Promise first seed project sites. Alyona helped to bring in the first harvest. It was an experience that taught many in the village that a little knowledge and lots of hard work can meet your needs and make you feel really good about yourself.
So Alyona, how many ways can we prepare potatoes? I told you she's resourceful.
Noligwa lives in one of the poorest slums in Cape Town, South Africa. When her husband abandoned the family, it was just one more tragic but overlooked event in this community of more than 18,000 people. So she did the best thing she knew to do: earn money by watching other children. Her makeshift preschool became quite popular, and soon her small place was overflowing. But when the little shack fell into disrepair, moms pulled their children out. In a squatter community like this, there is no plan B. And Noligwa says she started crying herself to sleep and asking God for help. Not long after, Orphans Promise teamed up with the local church to build Noligwa a new, larger facility to care for the children. This preschool is one of 16 in this community that Orphans Promise is helping to rebuild or refurbish. Like the other owners, Noligwa is learning better teaching techniques, as well as how to run a successful business. All of the ladies involved in these renovations are part of a support group that is centered on God. And through this program, about 500 children are receiving a better start in life. With just a little help, Noligwa's preschool is flourishing. Now she can support her children while having the satisfaction of helping others. Through Orphans Promise self-sustaining programs, we are breaking the poverty mentality, providing the tools that allow people to work hard, meet their families' needs, take pleasure in that accomplishment, and live with dignity. At the same time, they are, by their own example, teaching their children. Now that's a great way to break the generational cycle of poverty.
CBN's Orphans Promise promotes the well-being of children all around the world, and it's a big world out there. And I'm happy to say that they're almost everywhere, 60 countries and counting. Terry, it must have been a remarkable trip for you meeting these dear families.
You know, it was each one of those families, each one of those countries, very, very special to see what God is doing. You know, it's kind of what Devin was just talking about. You just take the first step with what you have in your hand, and then it's like God waters it and fertilizes it, and it grows, and you stand back in astonishment and just watch it happen. It's pretty amazing. And many of you have participated in helping all of this become reality. So it's been a journey of awe and compassion and intensity because the need's so great.
And to see that one family with 14 family members living in 2 rooms, and look at the difference Orphans Promise was able to make.
Yeah, and you know what? That's what we're about, not fish for a day, but how to fish for a lifetime so that you can really change lives and make a difference.
And we know it's Terry's joy when she gets to travel overseas and make a difference like that. Perhaps that's not something you can do, but you can help us make that possible by dialing 888-777-1999 or log on to 700clubinteractive.com. Partner with us. We're making a tremendous difference around the world, as you just saw, and it's a wonderful way to show the love of Jesus. Terry?
Well, the Dennehy family may be one of the most remarkable families you'll ever meet. They had 3 children when they began adopting others from around the world. Take a look.
I was born in Bangkok,
Bangalore, India.
Connecticut.
And I was born in Romania.
Ethiopia.
which is in Africa.
In China.
Sharon is the gas pedal, and I am the brakes. Over and over she'll say, I found this child who needs X and Y and Z, and all we'd have to do is fly over the ocean, get funding, connect this dot to here, and it'd be done.
We're such victims of our culture because our culture tells us your kids have to look perfect and be in all the perfect schools, and you can't do that with a big family, but if you just concentrate on what's important, the rest will follow. People discouraged us. They thought we were going to ruin our lives by taking all these special kids, and they said, you don't know what to do. And it's true that we had no experience and we didn't really know how to raise them, but you see what happens with unconditional love. You give a person unconditional love and they blossom.
Careful, Poppy. Never know what happened next.
I feel like having these kids has really helped us find our life, find our meaning, find our purpose.
Family is everything.
Family's fun. Interesting.
His family is just people you can be a fool around and they'll still love you.
Awesome. No, should I do the Dennehy face? Family is something that I can count on.
Family is adoption.
I love this family. They are so amazing and they so get it. Family is fun, but maybe the most significant part of it is it's a place to belong and to be loved and nurtured, and a place where when you do blow it and make mistakes, you can always come back and be hugged. And I think That's what the Dennehy family so wonderfully exhibits. And everybody needs that. Everybody.
And such a wonderful reminder when we see stories of families who have adopted, how the grace of God in the midst of our sin adopted us. God adopted us into his family. What a privilege. And Jesus did all the work.
Yeah.
And if we accept his sacrifice on the cross and the blood he shed, we are in his family. It's a wonderful privilege.
He's a great dad.
He really is.
Great dad.
Well, we leave you today with this verse from Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 18. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. We hope you've enjoyed today's show. Remember, if you need prayer, call us 888-777-1999. There's always someone available to pray for you. For Terry Muse and I'm Andrew Knox, and we will see you next time on 700 Club Interactive. Bye-bye.